shit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Glacier Flower on Glacier Flower. Sorry, this is like what 3 weeks late or something. We we
It's
tr-
something like that.
we try we tried recording it like a bunch of different times, and each time I don't know.
It got fucked up somehow. So this is now our fifth attempt at this. So hopefully this doesn't go too terribly.
Um,
So, the album of the hour, or however long this video ends up being, Glacier Flower 21, our most recent album, released on May 28th.
no. May 14th.
May 14th. Shit.
2021, which was our last day of high school as well, so that's significant in that way.
So it was really kind of the kind of backstory to this is that this is very representative of an end of an era within the band. Uh, Up to this point, we kind of planned this to be the last album with this title scheme of the apostrophe last two digits of the year. So it's kind of a conclusion to this original trilogy of Glacier Flower albums, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you can kind of tell that, especially in the tone. It's kind of an end. Um, but this album is kind of representative of 2020 and how everybody felt in that year. Originally, it was us because we were going through kind of a difficult time, and then we realized it wasn't just us; it was pretty much everyone in the world at that point. So we kind of just made the album about trying to capture feelings and moods people had of that year.
And that's a great point because this was a much more emotion driven album than what we had done before. We wanted to make something that had a distinct emotional palette to it, make it a very tangible, immediate listening experience in terms of the emotional gratification you get as a listener and kind of just the emotional textures we wanted to convey to listeners.
And looking back 7 months later, I think we did a pretty solid job with what we originally were going for. I remember we were,
This is easily the one of ours I'm most happy with.
oh yeah, definitely. I remember there was one, um, we were like working on this album at the very beginning, and I think you said, "Oh, we need to make this better than 20," and it just is in like every way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of irrefutable, honestly, because just on a surface level, I mean, the production here is far more interesting. It's it's way better done. It's a way better produced album. And I don't even think these qualities are like my subjective opinion. That's just a fact of this album's production that
Oh yeah, 100%,
the quality of it is distinctly more professional.
definitely. Um, but yeah, we took couple months off after releasing Glacier Flower 20, and we started work on this album in August of 2020. Um, from we were listening to Like I'm Not Even There, and kind of that song, which was made around the time of 20, and it didn't really fit on that album. Um, that song, listening back, kind of kickstarted the production of this album.
Yeah, it was very much a template for what we wanted to do, this more emotionally inflected song that ultimately we kind of took that foundation and turned that into that was the bedrock for a lot of the emotional ideas that spawned from here. But notably, I don't think not the it was a starting point, but also not like everything was defined by that, because that's what I find really fascinating, that there are so many emotional tones and cadences across this that overlap and expand upon what like I'm not even there is doing. And I guess the final thing before we get into these songs is speaking on the troubled production cycle of this album, because for most of I want to say like May or May, June, kind of that time when we were finishing up 20 to around October, we were really dragging our feet on this album, and just the ideas were not there. Was, I mean, plain and simple, was just the
Yeah,
reality of it.
it did take quite a while for us to actually start putting stuff out. We did have a lot of problems with production on this album, and I think a lot of it has to do with us working in isolation um, on every song on here except two.
Yeah. And I mean, working in isolation was really just, I mean, I know we would have preferred to be in person, but it just is not possible most days, especially back in like 2020, when we didn't have the same luxuries of vaccines and rapid testing that we do now.
I think it's kind of a good thing we're working in isolation, I guess, because I don't know, just I think this album is really good, at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
compared to the
Compared to
previous
what we've
two.
done previously, yes.
We got Beyond the Postcard Beaches, which is the first song on here.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them the name origin of this song?
Yeah. So the name origin is quite interesting. And it's one of my favorite things about this song. I mean, aside from the song itself, but uh, so the name arose when this kind of piece of music, what would later be called Beyond the Postcard Beaches, was floating between us, and we needed a title for it. And that's another thing about this album. A lot of the titles came way later into production than we normally would do, where we think of a title and make something around that. Here, this was make something and think of a title around it, which is way more difficult than the inverse.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
But this title came from a River Monsters episode I was watching, where the host Jeremy Wade was like on some tropical island, and he was like, "Beyond the postcard beaches, there are dark oceans of terror," or whatever. Like it was some cheesy thing, but I the phrase "beyond the postcard beaches" really connected with me, because that's such a it's like this eerie, haunting phrase that suggests leaving behind this idyllic, youthful, kind of nostalgic imagery, which is really a catalyst for the album.
Yeah, that I think that's a good, not a good. I think it's honestly like a strong opening title because it just kind of represents 2020 in a way, not wanting to be there and looking back before the pandemic hit and everything and how great everything was. I think it's very symbolic in that way.
How great everything was, or just how great it seemed to be
Right.
comparatively now. Yeah.
And this is a great song. I love the production on it. Just it's very like the fuck is that word?
Ominous.
There you go. How did you know that? Yeah, ominous.
Yeah, no, I love the atmosphere of it. I think it's really a menacing, interesting opening track.
Yeah, yeah. You're just kind of just you're in the album. There's no like slow start. You're just like there's that synth noise, bow, and then you're just like floating.
Yeah.
This is good though. Um,
And then yeah, we've got our kind of lead single for the album released on January 1st, that being Silwa,
this is almost a year old. That's crazy.
right?
Um,
Like, yeah, so that's how far some of this music dates back. That, like, we're not just talking about this like 6 months after the album, we're talking about some of these songs that are now a year behind us. And I
yeah,
mean,
at least. I don't.
and that's crazy.
I don't. I think you said it, but this was the single for the album. Um, and I guess I'll kind of hint towards like your podcast and how they said it's kind of like in between 20 and 21. Like it sounds more professional and like whatever and longer, bigger, but at the same time, it does kind of have this. I don't even know, but there's something about it where it's definitely us. Besides the voices at the end, obviously, but
Yeah. Um, and I guess another thing I know you've wanted to talk about this song was the cover art for the single art and where that came from.
oh yeah, that was we were taking pictures for Glacier Flower 20. Um, and we took that picture, which I think we liked it then a lot, but we kind of revisited it when we were looking at single covers. And I think, I don't know why or how, but we changed. It was like a colored image, and then we changed it to that black and white image, and we just like fell in love with that cover. And I still think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's such a strong composition. Like, I mean, rule of thirds is perfect on that because the horizon line ends right and then it intersects with the right third and the left third, and they kind of trade off place. I mean, the composition's really, if you think about it, like a zigzag, and
Yeah,
I think it's a fucking striking as hell image. I love it.
I'm gonna go off and told me some tell you something you told me when we were making this song. Um, you called me a music nerd for telling you the chords in this song, so I'm gonna call you a photography nerd for whatever the hell a rule of three is or whatever.
Fair enough, fair. I can't even argue with that. You're right. But I mean, I like the footsteps in this song. Those are how they are kind of panned about the mix. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and talk about like the field recordings and everything. And in a late spring, we were listening to that song on a stereo when it was raining, and we were like, "Oh, that's a really cool atmosphere." On Hiroshi, we were listening to it in August's basement, and I think we had the window open or something, and
Yeah, yeah.
we heard the wind and the birds. So of course we had to record that. And the same thing happened in this album. We were, I think, outside. It was fall. There was leaves all over the ground. We were listening to these, and we heard our footsteps crunching through the leaves, and of course we had to record that. And I think, I think it's great.
Oh yeah. And actually, the opening sample to this song, that noise, for those who don't know, is from the Pillows song Blues Drive Monster off the Fooly Cooley soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're kind of a, power pop alt rock band, and we just have a sample of theirs in this album. So
And I guess another interesting note, which we haven't touched on at all, is the voices at the end, where we're
oh
just
yeah.
repeating "I don't know," is inspired by "Have a Nice Life's" a quick one before the eternal worm devours Connecticut.
Yeah, that's right. Shit. We didn't even mention that in the previous recordings, so
Oh
already
man.
this one's better. But yeah, I mean, Have a Nice Life for another key influence on this album,
Yeah,
just
just
generally
in
speaking.
general, definitely our Armageddon.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, this good song. I think we were right in choosing this as our single because I don't think anything else on here could have been, to be completely honest, in my opinion.
No, I'm with you. It would nothing else here would have worked as a single in the same way this does.
And I guess last note, Silva is Latin for forest.
Forest, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, speaking of Latin, Tristitia ex nihilo is the next song on here. Um,
This
yeah,
this is a
sorry.
very sorry. Oh, whatever. Sorry. I
I'll
don't
let
know.
you go.
Okay. I think this song does sound quite a bit like Silva, but I do like this song a lot more just of um timbre, I guess. This is just a lot darker personally.
Yeah. And I guess another thing I like this a little more over Silva personally is I really like just how harsh of a song it is for something that is you would consider ambient. There's some really just scraping, ear-piercing drones in this that are, I mean, texturally, yes, unpleasant, but I think they really fit the mood of this song.
I think so too. I also found it interesting when listening to this on like a huge stereo, right? How deep like beyond the postcard beaches is, and then how like high and screeching these fucking like whatever they sound like screams.
Mm, yeah, I, it's such a, I can't even describe what it's like. It's a really great texture,
Yeah,
and I do really like the progression of this song, the way it flows and builds up to that harsh scraping, which by the time you're like halfway into the song, it's just overwhelming you. And
yeah.
it's, yeah.
This is a great song. The title means what? Sorrow out of nothing.
Melancholy from
Melancholy out
Nothing.
of nothing. There you go.
It's about the same stuff.
I'm,
So,
but yeah, whatever.
of
Um,
course, and it's like a little spoof on the creatio ex nihilo, which is creation from nothing.
I think it was we had a hard time coming up for a title with this song. I remember this; it was left untitled for like almost the entire production of the album. Choosing that title, I don't know. I think it's a really good title now. But I remember it was just we had a really hard time coming up with a name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And I remember I just kind of sent this title to you late one night and was like, let's go with this, maybe.
And I was
And
like, sure.
yeah, but I guess yeah, on the subject of bleak titles, uh, moving swiftly into a good reason for everything to fall apart.
This is this is a I don't know. This is a pretty depressing, sad song. But it's like one of the prettiest ones on the album, I think.
And it's also where like just the straight piano driven stuff really kicks into high gear on this album.
Yep. Um, Obviously, there's like a polyrhythm kind of happening and a syncopation. And the keys are distorted and just like there's a lot of reverb on them, so they just kind of ring. I just find it really, really cool.
Oh yeah, the way they ring out, I think, is so distinctly interesting. And by the time you get to the point where the keys are being syncopated and it's like going in both ears, it's just like a transcendent thing.
Yeah. This is the shortest song on the album at this point, running at like what 5.5 minutes, I think,
5.5 minutes, yeah.
as compared to like 8 9 minute pieces, 10 minute pieces. I think Tristida is like
Yeah,
10 minutes.
Tristity is 13 seconds shy of 10. And I mean,
Um, but it's like no, go ahead. Sorry, I don't know
yeah,
what
and
you're
I
gonna
mean,
say.
it's really a testament to this being the second shortest song on the album because I think it really shows our stepping up in stylistic ambition. Because before this album, we only really had two like long songs. It was Paper Squares and Grand Journey.
Yeah,
And now both of those are, I mean, Paper Squares is shorter than like half the stuff on here. And Grand Journey measures up, but isn't longer than the longest stuff on here.
right. Yeah, I just that just that point and how different the production is from 20 is just kind of mind-boggling. But yeah, a good reason for everything to fall apart. I don't even know where that title came from, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I cannot remember where that was from.
I have no idea. Um, but yeah, it's very very bleak, pretty as August said, transcendent, and I think it's a nice build up for the next song. Like I'm not even there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, similar to Good Reason, we've got another piano rich, musically ambitious track here with like a lot of with like melodies and counter melodies strewn about it. There it's yeah, like this step up in ambition, and even from this, you get kind of the most direct communication of the commentary on this album with the kind of people being there for the start and that gradually disappearing over like this 3 minute long section of the song. When I hear this song, I hear it in three sections because there's that beginning piano, very kind of technically indulgent part that then kind of suddenly gives way to the slower, dronier section, which itself gives way to an even sludgier, slower section.
Yeah, I love how because you can kind of see that, but it's just like the contrast between how disorienting the beginning is to just how like spacious and dark like the second 2/3 are.
Yeah. And I the thing that makes I think this song interesting is you get that moment's reprise at the end where it seems a person comes where it seems you get those people coming back. It shows some grain of optimism in it, which
Which honestly,
yeah,
at the time back in May, we were starting to get a little more optimistic about COVID and everything. I mean, obviously, October of 2020, there was is nothing compared to May of 21, which
yeah,
in hindsight is nothing compared to now. But you know, I think it was yeah, we kind of added some optimism to the end.
yeah. So I mean, it's just an interesting decision to kind of reflect on how you feel it kind of fits into the grander scheme of the album. But yeah, that's like I'm not even there.
We move on to Until We Meet Again, which
Absolutely. Yeah. This is it's kind of the third in this, I guess, run of just these more, yeah, kind of outwardly sad, sentimental tracks. Although this one is a lot less piano driven and more organ and kind of, or I guess synthesized
drone.
organ and drone driven.
Yeah. And this song is dedicated to someone we know who ended up committing suicide in March of this year. And I think that, I don't know, this song wasn't meant to be for that person, but it was in the making when it happened. We just felt it was necessary to dedicate that.
Uh, I mean, really, it's just one of the most outwardly kind of sweeping, just disheartening drones on the album that I mean, and when you do get those piano keys that do eventually come in there to kind of fully tie it to those other songs in that kind of suite, I guess. It just, oh boy, it's a lot to take in.
It is. It's very emotional. I just honestly I don't remember a lot of the production of this song.
Yeah, I don't remember a ton of it either, aside from this being one of the few moments on the album that we were particularly I guess confident about, because that's the thing, a lot of this album we were actually not very confident about how the end product would be.
Right.
And there were select moments where we were like, oh yeah, this is a good idea, or I like this and this works. But most of this was an album plagued by self-doubt and worry about how the end product was going to be.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that. We were not confident about this album at all. Um I don't know. I feel like we definitely should have been more confident is all I'm saying. Because this is pretty good.
Hmm.
Um and I guess that kind of goes into some other stuff too. There honestly, we don't remember a lot of the production of this album. I know we've like gone in pretty in depth with it, but I don't know. There's just, at least for me, I don't remember a lot of the production of this album.
Yeah, no, it can all kind of feel like a blur to a certain extent, but that does lead us to another song we like.
This is a point on the album where I don't have a lot of like huge complaints about this album, but the one main problem I do have is how we end the album. I think we need the last two songs to make it all work. I don't think the first six songs, like, it doesn't feel complete to
Yeah,
us. Um, but I feel like we could have done it better to make it, because like the last two songs are like in a sense kind of like an epilogue, right? Where yeah, something ended and but there's still stuff after it, and they're not very emotional, and it kind of does take this weird like left turn from the rest of the album. And I still don't know how, per, to be honest, but there could have been a way to make that more clear.
yeah. I mean, and it's hard when you're working without lyrics of any kind. Well, I mean, aside from the I don't know, but it's hard when you're working with something so instrumental and so ethereal to kind of properly communicate to an audience what you're trying to get across.
Speaking on that, it doesn't mean that these songs are bad. Like honestly, Our Matins is a really good song.
I think the Middle Eastern influence on this song is something entirely unique to it within the discography. So I think, and the guitar driven
Right.
parts of it make it quite distinct from everything else. And even something like,
Not even there.
yeah, I see. Of Cracking Bones, of Cracking Spirit, I think has a purpose on there. And I still do enjoy the really bassy, drony sound of that.
Oh
Although
yeah.
at the end of the day, there was a second version that of that song that existed that I wish we would have put on there because I think that other version's a little better.
Fair enough. We can still release it. But yeah, I don't. These two songs are definitely don't have the same emotional value as the other six, and there's
But
not a
yeah.
lot I want to say about them.
No, I mean, I think to try and say something about them would be to give away a little too much.
Yeah.
So we'll skim over them. Haha.
Haha.
If stupid listeners don't even know.
Rod, you are.
Yeah. But generally, that's kind of what the album is like, what we think of it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I
Not
mean, is there anything else you want to add?
not about the album, I don't think. January 1st, 2022, we are going to be releasing our full discography on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, etc.
And yeah, there's not a whole lot that's coming down the pipe. So, you know, new music when new music comes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Glacier Flower on Glacier Flower podcasts. Even if you just listen to this episode, I mean, awesome.
Thank you,
Yeah.
by the way. Um, but yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
Bye.